Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. What am I thinking? Good morning. Good afternoon. Let's just take a moment. I invite everybody to just take a nice deep breath in with me. And let that go. Just give it away, so to speak. Thank you, Brian and Val. I think you saw me back there playing my just rocking lead guitar on that song. Yeah. So finding peace, one piece at a time. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I had a lot of time on an airplane to think about this and to envision peace. And it seems to be an ongoing theme in my life right now is how can I find more peace? Moving to Vancouver Island was a great gift in finding that peace. Finding unity was possibly the second part of finding that peace. But it's not out there. That's not where the peace lives. It doesn't reside somewhere out there. It's not a place we can go to. It's not a place that we have to fly to. It's actually something we can develop within ourselves right here. So I want to share with you some scriptures, and I'll admit I openly steal from Eric Butterworth because I think he was a genius. So I'm stealing from him today all over the place. So these are some scriptures that I'd like to share. So commit your way unto the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. I will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Prove me now if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that there shall not be room enough to receive it. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whoever ye will, and it shall be done unto you. So these scriptures are a little bit odd. And if you spend time with them, you can actually see that what they are is a covenant. A covenant is like an agreement that you get into with something. And so we could remove all of the jargon and the patriarchal version of God and the God out there. And if we bring that into ourselves, what we're really asking to do is to make a covenant with that God inside us, that knowing inside us, that truth that resides in us. What we're really asking is something greater of ourselves in those moments. That's who the agreement is with. Have you ever made an agreement with yourself, like even just to do one thing and it worked out and that's great, but remember the times when it didn't and you kind of feel bad? Right? Like you actually didn't keep your own agreement with yourself, like whatever it was to make your bed the next morning. And it sits with us, right? Because that's who the agreement is with. We're making these covenants with ourselves to live a certain way, to be a certain way, to raise our consciousness or whatever it might be. That is what these covenants speak to. So this idea of peace, one piece at a time, is that. It's making little steps with ourselves, making an agreement with ourselves one piece at a time to move to that next place. And then that next place that we achieve becomes the floor. It becomes the new standard from which we can then elevate ourselves yet again. We can make a new covenant with ourselves. And those building blocks are what make our life. And whether they've been great covenants, things that raise us up, or things that tear us down, that is really how we live, piece by piece. And the challenge that I see, at least for myself, is allowing that outside world to become my inside world. The best place I can be is coming from my inside world. Making sure that is put together piece by piece in a way that is my truth, in a way that is your truth, in a way that works for you. Not holding the standard out on somebody else, but raising, I like to think of it as sort of raising our standards a little bit at a time as we move up in consciousness. So Butterworth says the great truth that Jesus stressed is that there is a dynamic spiritual process that works within you constantly, which will work for you as health for your body and peace for your mind, prosperity for your affairs. If you work with it, it's like a scientist telling you about the law of gravity. Now, gravity is a very marvelous, wonderful force that will work for you if you understand it and keep yourself in tune with it. If you walk in balance, gravity will help you to walk. Because after all, as most of you know, walking is simply falling forward one step at a time. And what happens if you don't fall forward with that step? You fall flat on your face, right? So we learn the law of gravity. Whether we understand it or not, we learn the law of gravity and how it works. So if you don't keep your balance, you fall on your face. But that's the covenant. See, that's the agreement with gravity. We keep our balance, we don't fall on our face. We lose our balance, we fall on our face. So it's understanding that this God that we throw around this word and people talk about is not separate from us. That we can create those covenants within ourselves for that way of living. Like gravity, the law of spiritual peace is already established. You don't have to beg to have peace. You just need to align yourself with it. Sort of like you need to get on board. There's a train in the station called Peace, and you have the opportunity to get on board or to watch it go by. Anybody chosen to watch it go by at times in our lives? Yeah. No, I'd like to just suffer here a little more. This would be great. The heck with that train. Who needs that? And maybe I could tell some people about my suffering too, and they could come on board that train with me. What's that?
The pity train.
The B train?
The pity train.
Oh, the pity train. There we go. Yes. Yeah. But that's not the same when we're processing something, right? Sometimes when we're processing something deep in our lives, we need the support of others. But that's not the same thing as walking around in your little pity train going, woe is me, right? There's a difference there. And I think we all know that difference. Rather be on the gravy train. Butterworth says we don't need to get God to forgive us. God is already loving us completely. Forgiveness is how we get in tune with that love. See, there's nothing inside of us in that realm of spirituality that wants us to have a bad life. It's just not the way it works. Everything is for our highest good. And if we can flip ourselves into that way of thinking, then we can see challenges as opportunities. And we can see opportunities as ways to move forward. And, of course, we have free will, so we don't have to do any of that. Right? We can choose something completely different. We can choose an experience that maybe isn't as great as we could have it. There's a story of Zacchaeus. It's a small little piece of scripture in the Bible about Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus was a tax collector. And so he was like the lowest of the low. as it's put. He was a sinner, people thought, because he was Jewish and he was collecting taxes from the Jews for the Romans, right? So in their mind, it's like, you are dirt, pretty much. And he was very wealthy as a result of this work that he did. So he had a very good life. He had everything he needed, except he had nothing, if you know what I mean. And so in this short story, we also find out that Zacchaeus was very short. He was height challenged. And so Jesus is coming through town, and Zacchaeus wants to see Jesus, but he can't because he's too short. So he climbs a tree in order to get a look at Jesus. And as Jesus walks by, he sees Zacchaeus, and he says to him, "Zacchaeus, come down. We're going to your house, and we're having some lunch." I love that. It's like, that's the way we should roll. Come up to people, go, we're going to your place, and you're making me some lunch, and it's going to be good. So this happens, and nobody else was there. Nobody knows what was said or what was done, if they had a conversation or if Jesus just stared at him the whole time, and he finally saw in that gaze the truth of who he was, the real truth. And he came out of that lunch and he made a new covenant. He told everybody that he ever wronged that he would give them 4 times what he wronged them for. And he said he would give half of his wealth away to those living in the streets because he had found peace in that moment. And this was his new agreement that he would live by. And he would give up his old way of being and have this new way of being. And sometimes that's what it takes from us. Some radical change in our lives. I don't know what you all think, but becoming a minister at Unity is a radical change in somebody's life. I can attest to that. It was not on my to-do list. You know, when I used to write out my goals when I had an Edward Jones office, it didn't end with minister as like the last step. Here's the thing. Zacchaeus didn't have to prove anything. He didn't have to prove his worth to have peace or to find peace. He needed to make a change within himself. And metaphysically, we can look at that climb up the tree from somebody short in stature. We could look at that as lower in consciousness. And in order to raise his consciousness, he had to get some height. He had to start living at a higher place. He had to see higher than the way he was seeing already. And there's so much of that in the Bible, so much scripture. Mount Sinai, where Moses goes up the mountain, and Abraham goes up the mountain, and this person goes up the mountain. Zacchaeus climbed a tree. Is this what really happened, or is this an idea for us to see that we need to look higher than where we currently are? That's the challenge that we all get to accept in our lives, should we choose to, if we want something more than what we currently experience, if we want that peace. And it's piece by piece that we put that together. It's a meditation practice that starts with 1 minute twice a week, to 3 minutes 4 times a week, to 1 minute every day, to 5 minutes every day. Saying, no, this is what I require, and nothing gets in the way of that. This is first and foremost because it centers me and it grounds me and it gives me that peace in my life. And that's a covenant. That's you making an agreement with yourself. This is what I will do. I want this, and this is what I will do to achieve it. So about 133 years ago, on December 7th, 1892, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore signed a formal covenant. I don't know how many people have ever read their formal covenant, and it was only discovered in the 40s, tucked away in a little archive at the archives at Unity Village, dedicating themselves to the Spirit of truth. Their specific covenant stated, "We, Charles Fillmore and Myrtle Fillmore, husband and wife, hereby dedicate ourselves, our time, our money, and all that we have and all that we expect to have to the Spirit of truth. It being understood and agreed that said Spirit of truth shall render unto us our equivalent for this dedication in peace of mind, health of body, wisdom, understanding, love, life, and an abundant supply of all things necessary to meet every want without our making any of these things the object of our existence, in the presence of the conscious mind of Jesus Christ." And they signed their names. And they moved forward and built Unity. And for anybody that's been to Unity Village, it's amazing to me that these two people who had no intention of doing that created that. They never set out to build a church. They never set out to build gardens or fountains or buildings or anything like that that would house Unity, to bring ministers, to send people out into the world to do these teachings. That was not written in that covenant. What was written in that covenant was that they would teach the Spirit of truth. It's interesting because it was legally structured like a contract, comprehensive in dedicating everything they had. Expectant, and here's the real interesting part to me, expectant of receiving, right? They fully expected to receive back everything they required to do that work. They would never have to worry about it. And they focused on spiritual growth rather than material gain. And yet they left a legacy of thousands of acres of land that Unity holds today and uses at times to fund what it is they're doing in the world. So I was thinking about that, and I thought I would share with you a covenant that I made that I didn't know I was making, that I didn't actually know until I listened to this recent talk from Eric Butterworth, that I had made a covenant. And so in 2015, before Leslie and I decided to move to Vancouver Island, I had been slowly moving closer and closer to a different lifestyle and a different consciousness for myself. And it all started with, I have to be honest, Think and Grow Rich. I read that book in 2011, and I understood that there was a subconscious mind. And that began my journey of exploring, well, then how can I think differently? How can I shift my consciousness then? And so after a brief meditation, because back then if I could get through 5 minutes, I was pretty happy. Anybody know that experience? Yeah. So I will preface this so that you can't see what I wrote, but I use the term you in this, and I've written it as a you, as in universe, not as in... At some points it's the you, and some points it's the universe. So here's what I wrote after a meditation. And again, remember, I had no idea what Unity was. We had not decided to move to Vancouver Island. I had no idea that I would be called to minister. So, I am calm and spiritual. I am a way for all to see what is possible. This is so because I am the you in universe. When you see me, you see yourself. Just as when I see you, I see myself. We are all part of the same energy, and I will work to bring us all back to one. This is my true purpose in life. This is my vibration. You will know me as you. Thomas DeSchutter, 2015. So I didn't know what I was writing then, that it would lead to me standing here before all of you and on this path. But I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for all of this. So thank you for honoring me with your time, with your desire to be here and grow and expand with me in this unity, these unity teachings, Unity Vancouver Island, and whatever we can do to offer humanity a new way of being. And it's not new, we're just waking them up to it.